Hello everyone and welcome to a new video from Your Overwatch. I'm Eddie the Chump and today we're going to cover some very interesting community ideas about Hero 28 and how they're going to play, including one that questions whether Hammond is indeed the monkey we all assume he is. And then we're going to move on to the community's overall reception of the new LFG system, how the new endorsements have helped create a more welcoming atmosphere for quite a few people, and we'll also be covering the kind of split opinion about private profiles being on by default, and looking into how that feature can affect different parts and levels of play kind of, well, differently. First up, let's talk about Hero 28. So in the video where I broke down the latest teaser, you know, the one where it shows the ball rolling through the street, there was a section where I looked at the Wrecking Ball poster from Junkertown. And in that poster, you can see Wrecking Ball in two forms. Firstly in the top left, and it's a little bit smaller, so it's understandable if some people might have missed it, there appears to be an illustration of Wrecking Ball in his ball form, oblique on fire, kind of like a meteor. A meteor that falls to Earth from space. I wonder what that would make me think of. And it seems like I'm not the only person, because on Reddit, a user called Mustachio Equestrian, a fantastic name by the way, put up a post of an animated GIF comparing that background image of Wrecking Ball in his ball form to the one that's sketched in Hammond's escape plan from his room on Horizon. Equestrian titled the post, "You're telling me we could have worked out Hero 28 a month ago." Now I don't think it's quite as locked in and guaranteed as some people do, but the Hammond as Wrecking Ball theory does kind of, you know, just fit well. So much so that some very creative fans have already started sketching out how they think that idea would work. An illustrator and concept artist named Ellie Johnson posted this sketch to Twitter and to Reddit. In this concept, Hammond wears his escape pod almost like armor. And just like I imagined in my teaser breakdown video, Ellie visualizes Hammond as a hero that has kind of different stances. One is where he's a standing monkey with a grappling hook, and the other is where he transforms back in the ball to get around. She's even done a cute little drawing of Hammond's ultimate, where she imagines Hammond using the grappling hook arm to swing the ball around, much like a giant wrecking ball. I really like it. But because of the Junkertown poster, I think if we do get some sort of mech, it's much more likely to transform from the ball we saw in the teaser into some sort of vaguely standing robot battle mech kind of form. And that got us to thinking, maybe the robot part is the standard stance, and the ball is actually an ability. There's a Dota 2 character called Storm Spirit that has an ability called Ball Lightning. In this state, Storm Spirit curls into a ball and is invulnerable during this phase. He can then move around the map at high speed, damaging everything with electrical energy and destroying terrain. The use of this drains Storm Spirit's mana, and the ability only lasts as long as he has the resources to sustain it. To me, an adapted analog of this ability could work really well for Hero 28. You could give them a resource meter much like D.Va's defense matrix has, whereby sure, Hero 28 can be invulnerable in the ball form and could possibly do quite severe impact damage when it rolls into people, but they can't use it forever, so they have to choose when they do it very wisely. Kind of like a battering ram, I guess, is how you could use it in Overwatch. People have already made jokes on Reddit about a possible Rein bowling kind of game mode. Get 10 Reins standing up in formation and launch Hero 28 out of them, and whoever knocks over the most is the winner. I'd enjoy that kind of thing alongside Lucio Ball. But back to the Storm Spirit Ball Lightning example for an ability quickly. Because Dota is played on sort of a flat plane, it doesn't have levels and geometry like Overwatch maps do. It makes me think how a movement ability like that would interact with that stuff. Should Hero 28's ball form, for example, be able to scale walls much like Junkrat's tire can? Or does it handle scaling walls and tall ledges differently? Can the ball bounce off surfaces or off the floor? I don't know about you, but the idea of playing Super Monkey Pinball a little bit with this hero does definitely intrigue me. However, this Reddit post here, by a user whose name I'm not entirely sure isn't very rude, talks about how they hope Hero 28 isn't just another movement displacing hero like Doomfist. The example they give is that they don't like it when they're playing Rein against those sort of abilities, and that they hope being hit by Hero 28's ball form isn't just another version of that. Some people in the comments responded with a few ideas about how you could scale the impact knockback depending on how large a target you were. So if you're like Rein, Orisa, Winston size, the knockback isn't as severe against you. Whereas if you're mini D.Va, perhaps you even just get straight flattened. I can kind of see the logic to that line of thinking. There is already quite a lot of CC in the game, and what with Brigitte being the last hero that was added, I think if yet more was added in, the amount of people wanting to play main tank might suffer a little bit. But I do think you can balance it properly. Tuning a resource meter to tune just how much Hero 28 might have of this kind of ability isn't the hardest thing in the world. If it does come into the game in a form that's similar to the one I've described, it could always be toned down if it proves to be a little bit too oppressive. If the ball form is an ability and not a default state, would it make more sense for Hero 28 to be a tank or a damage hero? If it does turn out to be a tank, I would think it would have to be more off-tank than main tank. Kind of like an alternative to Diva, what with all the mobility. That brings up the same question I asked before, is the outer ball part of Hero 28 something that we can destroy? I guess making them a damage hero would probably be a little bit easier and more straightforward. You'll have to let me know which out of the two you'd prefer to see in the game. Just like you're gonna have to let me know what you think of this next Hero 28 theory. Fair warning, this one might blow your mind. So a Reddit user called Saint Maura posted a very different and original idea about who or what they thought Hammond was. And it's not what we've all been assuming. The basic logic is, some of the emails between the staff on Horizon hint that Hammond might have been in the ventilation system. This we all know. But Saint Maura's point is, some of that ventilation system is shown to be tubing on Horizon. And to fit into that, they reasoned that Hammond needs to be small. Maybe much smaller than we've all first imagined. He also references some of the other messages where the scientists are discussing that Hammond is out of his cage. They don't seem to care too much that he's running around, and that suggests to Maura that Hammond isn't dangerous. The next point is the one that really got me though. Maura points out that Hammond has a cage, as opposed to a bed that most of the other specimens have. If you compare Winston and Hammond's room, why does Hammond have a big cage and Winston just has his own open plan bedroom? Maura suggests the cage is there to prevent him from escaping or being crushed when the room door is opened or closed. He then goes on to mention the carrots in the cage, so Hammond needs to be an animal that enjoys eating them. He notes that the toy blocks have nibbles on them, and he asks the question, what kind of animal nibbles on everything? Why is Hammond's choice of escape a ball? He suggests it's because that's the only form of transportation that Hammond is accustomed to. That's why in the teaser, that's all we get to see. Get ready for it. Maura's conclusion is that Hammond isn't a monkey, Hammond is a hamster inside a giant mechanical hamster ball. Now I know what you're probably thinking. You're probably in your mind dismissing that idea immediately. I did at first, and then the internal logic of the idea kind of crept up on me. Why does Hammond have a cage? It had never occurred to me once to even question that. Also, if you examine the room, it's fairly clear that the door was pushed in from the other side, as if done by the other primate specimens in an effort to get at Hammond. The door lock mechanism on his cage has obviously been tampered with, and so is the panel at the back. Presumably that's how Hammond escaped. Now, I'm no doctor, but it doesn't look like a monkey could fit through that panel. I can't believe I'm saying this, but this is starting to make sense to me. If Hammond was a super smart hamster, then he absolutely would need a mech to make sense in the game. It makes the idea that Hammond is Wrecking Ball, and therefore the Junkertown champion, even funnier to me. Now, bringing it back down to earth for a minute, no matter how much of a fun theory it is, I really can't honestly see it happening. If it did, it would be the biggest swerve that Blizzard have ever pulled on us. You'll have to let me know what you think in the comments below. Is Maura actually onto something, or is this just complete fantasy? And with that, I think that's quite enough Hero 28 speculation for the day. Moving on, we're going to talk about the community reception for the new LFG feature. There's a lot of posts talking about how positive the change has been. Indeed, some saying that LFG has in fact saved Overwatch, or that it's brought them back from not playing to playing the game again and enjoying it. There's even one that notes that since the introduction of LFG and the endorsement system, there are many more women on voice comms since the update. If that's true, Blizzard have done a wonderful job dealing with some of Overwatch competitive's most long-term problems. Not all of them, mind, but a lot of them. If more women, and indeed more people in general, are much more comfortable being in voice comms and communicating with people and playing in a positive environment, then that is unreservedly a triumph. Now, one of the only concerns that we've had, and this is reinforced by our experience in-game after the update, is that playing in a group is certainly oftentimes a lot more fun. But in general, the games are much more challenging than pure solo queue matches. So despite the overwhelmingly positive reception of the new features, matches. Time will tell whether people elect for that extra challenge consistently on a long-term basis. It is, after all, only day 2. Now, one of the other features also introduced at the same time has been a little bit more controversially received. The default state of player profiles being hidden has kind of split the crowd. For people who are using LFG and role queue, having the profiles be hidden probably doesn't make as much of a difference, because in that context people are already queuing for the role that they want to play. But in solo queue, and especially at the higher tiers, it does seem to be making some players upset. There was a Twitter exchange between Kaiser, who was the main tank player for the Optic Academy team, and the former pro tank Reinforce. Kaiser had tweeted out that the private profile patch makes the ranked experience much worse, and Reinforce had tweeted back rather cheekily, "It's great, I can play DPS and no one suspects a thing." And that, despite it being quite funny, is a lot of top players' main problems with it. The great thing about having private profiles is that players aren't necessarily held prisoner by their own hero records. The higher up the tiers that you go, the higher the standard of play, and the bigger the consequences for someone not performing their job properly. So if you do get someone who decides to play outside of their normal role in a match, if you're at top 500, the consequences can be much more drastic. As a side complication to all this, stats websites like Overbuff won't function for your account if you do have your profile set to private. I can kind of see both sides to this profile argument, especially for the higher tiers. Everyone has paid for their own copy of the game, and they are absolutely entitled to play any hero that they feel like at any moment. But in real world terms, people being able to hide what heroes they have the most experience with does have some actual drawbacks, especially at that top level, like I've been saying. If a GM level healer just decides to play damage, for example, they might be quite comfortable accepting a few losses while they learn that new role, but is that actually fair on the teammates that they have? Because for any matches that that player does lose, they're losing SR as well. You'll have to let me know what you guys think about this. I'm sure there's many of you that are really grateful that you can hide your profile, just as I'm sure there's those of you who find it deeply frustrating. And that's about it for today, guys. I really hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, please don't forget to leave a rating. If you never want to miss another video of ours again, please click the bell icon next to the subscribe button on our channel to join the notification squad. You'll be in great company. And finally, please follow the Your Overwatch Twitter. It's where you can find updates about new videos and other cool stuff. I've been Eddie the Chump, and until next time.